Yeah, good evening to everyone. Panchatantra Planet is here with our 18th webinar. And the duty entrusted with me is to introduce the moderator, Mrs. Pooja Bose. And I don't think there is a need of introduction about Pooja Bose because she is a well-known principal and senior educationist of the country. She has been in the field for more than 2 to 3 decades. She has worked as principal of DPS, KR Mangalam World School, Noida, and presently heading the higher range school that belongs to the Tata company at Monar. And also she is collaborating nationally and internationally with many educational agencies involving in curriculum research, training, and other activities. And she is very popular in many of the webinars across the country. And we are very glad that she accepted our invitation to moderate this session. And when Major General Bhupeshji has accepted the invitation to have this session, we were thinking about a person who should be from a defense background. Then first came to my mind is Poojaji. And when I called her, she immediately accepted it and she agreed to moderate the session. So I hand over the podium to Poojaji for moderating. Over to you, Pooja ma'am. Pooja ma'am, you can unmute and start.
Sir, Pooja ma'am got some problem network connectivity.
She's not there.
She's not there.
Oh, let me check. Yeah, she's not there. So you can, okay, fine. That is not an issue. Pooja ma'am is back. She's back. She's back. Please make her the co-host.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now she's the co-host.
Yeah, so I was not allowed to unmute myself.
Now you are fine, no? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm good now. So a very warm good evening to everybody. And thank you for this wonderful introduction, Radhakrishnan sir. And today we have our teachers and our teacher leaders, principals, who are amongst the listeners, amongst the audiences. And why not? Because the subject of discussion today, the subject of which we are going to hear from our chief guest is very pertinent, very relevant, and also, I would say, amazingly different from the usual subjects which we have been discussing in the field of education. Ladies and gentlemen, they say that the Indian Armed Forces promises a life less ordinary. Life in the armed forces is full of challenges and opportunities. It is a glorious, but not a glamorous life, mind you, contrary to popular beliefs. The rigors and trainings which young cadets learn in their academies are not only limited to combat and warfare. but also changes perspectives about life, about camaraderie, about being accountable, and about being a team member. Armed forces teach us some valuable lessons which should be imbibed not only by the people who are serving in the Army, Air Force, or Navy, but actually they are universal, valuable lessons of life, of professionalism, which even if you're a teacher or a principal or a student or a software engineer, those lessons have to be imbibed, learned, and followed by everybody in order to be successful in your life. Some of them are lessons about discipline, integrity, professionalism, sense of sacrifice, selflessness. And if we apply all these in our respective lives, we will definitely be successful. That goes without saying. So in a way, I'd like to congratulate Panchatantra Pedagogy or the Panchatantra team who have taken it upon themselves to talk about this relevant subject. Panchatantra, as you all know, has a vision to nurture and develop talented teaching communities, blended with values, knowledge, wisdom, and technological skills to provide affordable, India-centric education through modern techniques for global citizenship. It's a visionary team of principals with over 25 years of experience in curriculum, development, implementation, and research-based teaching and learning, and all the K-12 leadership and teacher mentoring teams are included in this. It is also an eclectic it imbibes an eclectic learning methodology that integrates the following approaches, namely constructive, sensorial, reflective, integrative, and experiential. And I'm sure from time to time, the webinars which they conduct talks about each of these pedagogies. Based on the 5 principles of Panchatantra, its pedagogy makes learning joyful, experiential, inquiry-based, brain-based, and application-based. They function through blended learning strategy.
Please unmute yourself, ma'am. Yeah.
And try to transact the NCERT curriculum to learners of all the stages, foundational, preparatory, middle, and secondary school. So this was about the great work which the Panchatantra team is doing. And now we have the honor to have with us Major General Bhupesh Jain, who is going to give us a talk, present a session, a presentation about the military sutras. Now, a few lines about Major General Bhupesh Jain, though his entire work, his entire personality cannot be captured in these few lines, but I'll try to do a little bit of justice to the great work that he has done in the past. General Jain was commissioned in an elite special forces unit of Indian Army in December 1978. During his 37 years career, he held various operational command and staff appointments. He participated in Indian peacekeeping operations in Sri Lanka, where he was severely wounded, resulting in a permanent life-changing experience. And we'd like you, sir, to talk about it with us. His leadership experience includes command of Special Force team in combat, an infantry unit along the active border, a brigade along the line of control in J&K, and a division along the Indo-Pak border in Punjab. He also was the defense cum military attaché of India-based at Washington, D.C., and accredited to USA and Canada from June 2009 to December 2012. After his retirement in 2016, he continues to remain active as director in a couple of corporate entities such as the Senior Fellow at Center for Land Warfare Studies. He continues to remain passionate about sharing his experiences from his army life with younger generation towards nation building. Sir, I welcome you to this gathering, and I have no doubt that this gathering is going to benefit a lot from what you are going to talk to us today about the subject at hand. So I hand over the dais to you, sir. Over to you. Please unmute
my
him.
screen.
Yeah. You have to allow screen sharing. Yeah.
Can you see my screen?
We can see, sir.
You can see, sir.
Is it okay? Are you
It's
able
fine.
to see the slide, or do I need to swap?
No, the slide is big enough, sir. We can see the picture.
Now is it better?
Yeah, it's better.
Better. It's better, sir.
Better. Okay, good. That's all I wanted to check out. Okay. Thank you, Panchatantra fraternity, for inviting me. And thank you, Pooja ma'am, for being very kind, for those kind words, honoring me, and in sense you actually are honoring the Indian Army and Indian Armed Forces. I'm grateful. The first joy, there must be some students here, and let me first of all welcome the students, and then the teachers, the adhyapaks, the pradhyapaks, acharyas, gurus, in whatever form or method that you are imparting education to all of us. I'm indeed grateful. I wouldn't be here where I am but for my teachers. And in lighter vein, all this while one had to listen to them, and I'm really happy today I have a few words to say to make them listen to me. So thank you very much. And that should be an inspiration to all the students. Someday their teachers would like to hear them. What you see on screen is the photograph of National Defense Academy, which the students must aspire to reach if they wish to have a career in Indian Army. What you see is that beautiful building is Sudan block, constructed by India based on the money given by the government of Sudan. That was just a small trivia that I wanted to share with me. This is located close to Pune in Khadakwasla, and a few of you may have been there already in teaching capacity or visitors capacity. What I'm going to do is share my experiences and what lessons I've learned from my stay in the armed forces. Let me start. What you see is the 9 components of national power. It can be divided in 3 parts: natural resources, components of hard power, and the components of soft power. What you will notice is, after the first 2, which are natural resources, geography or natural resources, starting with population onwards, teachers start playing a role. So this talk of mine is dedication to you, the teachers, and it goes to show that a nation's power hinges on its teachers. What population can do to develop its nation's industrial capacity, technology, economy, and 3 of them together form military power, and 4 of them together make the hard power of the nation, is governed by what teachers make out of its demographic resource. And when it comes to soft power, it's totally how influence teachers have on ideology of a nation and the leadership of a nation. That decides what will be the democracy or will it be an autocracy. There is a term which is used as smart power, and I would say that teachers are the ones who are the smart power of a nation, which actually govern how well the nation performs in the world per se. Having connected to the teachers, let me come to India. You know, there are two concepts. There is a Westphalian concept of the state, which most of this August gathering would be knowing. And they would tell you that this entire structure of Westphalian concept of the state is what has been adopted by the United Nations. But it's quite different than what an idea of India is. Indian concept of Westphalian concept of state is at variation. But more on that we can discuss separately. But in 47, we came up with a constitution and a flag, which is on the screen, where the individual and the society was complementary, and our nation and our Hasti continued in another form in 1947. And in 1950, we adopted the constitution. But one of the great drawbacks of the constitution was Indian armed forces were removed out of any role internally, domestically, inside the country. And within 8 years, in 1958, the parliament had to bring in Armed Forces Special Powers Act, and wherein armed forces were given specific roles. And that has continued. And the key thing is the armed forces now are seen inside the nation by its population, the last bastion of the state where buck stops. And that's the basic idea that I wanted to say in this slide. And 2 decades after this Armed Forces Special Power Act, I joined this Indian Army, a young boy from humble background, from a small village, and there I am today standing in front of you. Now, what is it that I learned from army? And the first is ideology, and I'll come to that ideology. What you see on screen is a special forces contingent running down the Rajpath from Rashtrapati Bhavan to India Gate in their combat uniform. Now, there are 3 pillars of ideology of which I learned. First is apolitical. The only focus is on upholding the constitution and on a great motto which is given to us in our Indian Military Academy, and I may read it. It says, "The safety, honor, and welfare of my country comes first, always and every time. The honor, welfare, and comfort of the men I command comes next. My own ease, comfort, and safety comes last, always and every time." And these 3 pillars form the ideology of each and every person inside the uniform. At least that's what he's supposed to imbibe. Let me come to the second part. And this is, I can see, it may find odd to some of you that I'm using the term ahimsa. It's a key Indian cultural value. It finds itself in the Rig Vedas, which some believe is more than 25,000 years ago. It is first of the 5 Mahabharats of Jainism. It is the first of the precepts, whether you take 5 or 10 in Buddhism. It's our cultural heritage. It does not mean pacifism. It allows self-defense. It does not protect criminals. And it finds the human rights and ahimsa are interconnected. Therefore, the armed forces are meant to have an iron fist and velvet glove for its own people, iron fist for those who are hostile to Indian nation. Tolerance and accommodation through both actions and thought is built into it. And by the way, ahimsa is not only a Indo-Gangetic plain idea. If you go down south, I have picked up this piece of information from a Tamil scholar, which talks of the term both ahimsa and a very interesting Tamil words whose meaning is moral vegetarianism, which as a personal virtue. So ahimsa continues to be a key value. See the number of casualties Indian Army continues to suffer, yet ensuring that it does not cause undue violence against its own people. Even in wars, it is known to have treated its enemies fairly. Sorry. My next issue that I want to talk about is about environment. Now, about environment, I essentially would like to bring out that I have written down different areas where the armed forces have worked in environmentally friendly existence manner. I have narrated this. I can talk about the incidents both in Kota in Rajasthan, next to Indira Gandhi Canal in Rajasthan, which comes from Bhakra, regreening of Bhuj. If you go to the area of next to Pathankot, you will find the entire weather of those foothills has changed, particularly because of the amount of trees which have been planted. Army believes we do not inherit the earth from our ancestors, we borrow it from our children, and we need to keep following it. It connects today very well with the report issued by United Nations organ on indicating that on environment, the earth is facing code red. Let me come to the religion. What you see on the slide is an actual photograph taken of Mandir Masjid Gurdwara of my unit. This was taken in 2019 in Ladakh, very close to just a few kilometers from the line of actual control. And you can see how all three coexist so close to each other without causing any disturbance to anybody. And that, I think, this photograph conveys all that I want to say. Our troops are very spiritual, and when we're looking at religion, we call it dharam, and it's different than religion, and we use another term called astha, so the belief. So dharam and astha, spiritualism is an important facet. It guides us, the soldiers, towards our shared destiny, and therefore it is taken carefully, and it's the perfect example of India as far as religion is concerned, celebrated inside the armed forces. Next, I will come to, and I expect a lot of questions in this. The essence. What is the difference of essence of education in armed forces? I would like to flag three things here. One is Nishkam Karma. We believe that it is a central theme of Gita. Karam kiye ja, phal ki chinta mat kar. Nishkam Karm is one of the things which we need to imbibe in our soldiers. When we are looking at caliber, there is, and as teachers, you know better than me, there's a need to impart character and values. We also believe grit, resilience, patience, and determination is a very essential part of the education. And I've left a question mark, and I expect comments or questions on this issue called bravery, because I find this discussed very, very easily, glibly, looking at bravery as a virtue based on caste, community, race, area, etc. My experience of life is bravery is not a virtue. It's a circumstantial and depends upon the leader and in his ability to instill this virtue, create the circumstances where bravery virtually becomes a virtue. Let me come to what you as teachers need to understand and what the students need to understand is the challenge that I believe from my experience India is going to face, because we may claim that we are not interested in warfare, but warfare is interested in us. Whether we like it or not, in spite of all that what you said in our constitution, as soon as we got independence, the war came on our borders in J&K in 47, 48, in 62, in 65, in 71, in Kargil, now recently last year, in Galwan is known to everybody in India by its name. So warfare, you may keep claiming we don't want to go to war, but war is going to come to you and you will have to deal with it. And warfare is the one which drives technologies. So some of the major evolution in technology, internet, GPS, computing, space, digital photography, they are all products of defense departments in different countries. Internet was created by US Army to share data of one lab with another. GPS was created to guide the missiles inaccurately. Computing was created for the missile based on which the DOS was created and which was picked up by Microsoft to create this world famous Windows. Space, since the weapons from the ground could reach the aircraft taking photographs, it was decided to use space satellites to do the same work. Digital photography, how do you get the photographs taken by the satellite down to the earth? Digital photography was generated. So you see the development of robotics, artificial intelligence. So all these evolving technologies from the warfare see the changes they have brought about in this world. They are extremely prohibitively costly and complex. And the systems need a lot of money. The warfare is not only land, air, or sea or centric. Today, revolution in information technology has made mind as the frontier which the enemy would like to conquer in a hostile or in its opposing state. In 2000, Chinese came up with a book called Unrestricted Warfare. All of you can Google, anybody of you interested more in it can Google it. It is a Chinese concept to regain status of Middle Kingdom. It is the name of the authors is available in front of them. English version of that is easily available free of cost on the internet. And if you read, you will come to know that what is happening 22 decades later was extremely clearly enunciated by Chinese that what they are planning to do based on what they had seen 2 decades prior to that. Today, the democracies find that their democratic tools of free press, free media is being used to undermine by autocracies and even in some cases by theocracies. Ideology and religion finds a role in decision making at national levels in different cases. They are very large. Some of the MNCs are extremely large, and they are openly challenging the nation states, particularly smaller and weaker nation states. These are the challenges that Indian who grow up out of schools in next year, 2 years, and 5 years, which are going to find. So the different emerging hybrid warfare challenges. I can spend a lot more time going on to it, but I would like to cut short here and go to the next slides, and I'll be ready to answer questions if there are any on this. So here I come to my second last slide, and then this says, what are the lessons that I learned in my leadership? First of all, I look at leadership in 3 levels: tactical, operational, and strategic. And going horizontally to the right, my life's experience taught me that you can rise howsoever high you wish to go. But if you don't have the ethics, integrity, honesty, or morality, there is no way you are going to get to stay there. Your downfall is certain. So I believe one of the key lessons that needs to be driven to the students is ethics are important. They are the foundation on which the edifice gets created. If there are these 4 attributes are missing, then destruction of the edifice is guaranteed. The second part of the argument that I need to make is there are 4 attributes of leadership which I gained as my experience. First, your team has to be a happy team, and if they are a happy team, they'll be able to ideate in difficult times and will be able to come in ideas. If they are not a happy team, even if they have ideas, they'll not give it to you. They will be very happy to see you crashing to the ground or struggling. They'll be very happy to see you making mistakes. If you have a happy team, they will ensure that they achieve their goals, they carry out the compliance of what is needed to be done, and they will ensure that delivery of takes place of different timelines which are there. And finally, a happy team will be honest with you. Because you will be honest with them. They will tell you honestly. So these 4 attributes I found, they are interconnected, but they are necessary. And you need these 4 pillars for a stable, successful leader's tenure at any location that you are, starting from tactical or at operational or at the highest strategic level, be it nation or be it an organization. How do you achieve this? The first and foremost that I learned was you need to sublime your ego. That I believe is the key. One of the biggest downfall which does not let you run a happy team is big egos. You have to control your egos. You have to practice humility. You need to listen more. You need to ask questions, genuine questions, where you learn from people by asking questions. You need to have better skills and competence than your team, and they must be able to admire and accept that you are skillful and competent. If you don't have that, the chances are that you will not be able to earn their respect. You need to take risks and responsibility for taking risk. Responsibility will be yours. You can delegate your authority, but you cannot delegate your responsibility. If anything goes wrong, it is you who are responsible. And risk, if a leader does not take a risk, he is never going to succeed. There are occasions will come when he needs to take this decision. And finally, take decisions. The biggest bane I found, particularly in the armed forces, was, and at the government level, and even in private sector, now that I'm working in different organizations, people hesitate from taking decisions. So here I am at past 5:10, and I believe I can continue with enough anecdotes and stories, but I like to close here so that I get a chance to hear what you all are saying. But before I close, I share with you a hut of remembrance which contains the memories of all those great souls who have, as I say, made the supreme sacrifice. And as we say in the army, when the bugle shall call, they will rise and march again. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much, General Jain, for this wonderful talk, which was given by you. And to be honest with you, when you say, when Sir said, Radhakrishnan Sir said, have some question and answers, there are no questions. There are absolutely no questions, because the success, the proof of a pudding is in eating it, and the success of army, armed forces, is for everyone to see. And so the principles and the ethics and the foundations on which it stands is such that it has proven itself, stood its test of time, and we don't have any questions regarding how army is functioning, but we have lots and lots of questions and deliberations and introspections to make as to how we function outside the armed forces life. And we have a lot of learnings to do, so I'm going to talk a lot about our life, and I'm going to ask you to connect, and if we can benefit in any which way from the lessons which army has taught you, and which it is teaching to all the other officers and cadets and all of the people who are army personnel. So what we are going to do in next 20 minutes is this only, that we are going to try to imbibe those lessons, right? So the first and foremost is the topic about citizenship. We all know that army prepares soldiers, but they are not just soldiers. We have seen them, the way they conduct themselves in the real life settings, in civil life, and they are class apart. There is something in a soldier which differentiates or demarcates him from the rest of the people, and we wonder why our youth, our students, cannot be the same, cannot have the same values. So what are those things which you teach them, when an 18-year-old comes to you, or a 19-year-old comes to the academy? How do you change the entire, because they also are coming mostly from civil background. So what are the changes that come in his being, and how?
Tough one, ma'am. I can only highlight my own experiences. See, I was 16 years old when I joined the army, and I see many 16-year-old continue to join now about 18 years, because, ma'am, what army does is it polishes what comes from seeing in the street, We all came from civil street, spent 4 decades in uniform, and have come back into the civil street. We've carried some, we unlearned a few things when we joined the army, and some of us have continued those learnings. Some of us who after retirement have unlearned what we learned for 4 decades inside the army. I would only say that the organization and the leaders have to walk the talk of ethics, of values, and of organizational cultures. You all would have found, at least I did, you suddenly find a leader comes and suddenly that organization starts performing differently. And then another one comes, they all are fighting among each other. Nobody's taking decisions. So I believe it's about leadership. And therefore, I in same area, a school going suddenly up and then suddenly going down with a change in leadership. So I attribute this to the leadership which matters can influence that. There are many such discussions inside our states have started rising up, and some are not doing well. Look at Singapore, how it rose up. Look at Japan, how it rose up. Look at Germany, how it rose up. So I do believe, see what changes China did once they decided to expand. So I believe it's up to our it's leader makes a lot of difference. One, and the second is organizational culture or national culture that gets generated by different other factors makes a lot of difference. So I would attribute these two.
Thank you, General Jain. Audiences, I know you have many questions, but we will have a separate segment regarding your questions after 20 minutes. So you can keep your questions, type. I would suggest you type in the chat box and we'll take it up from there. Okay, so, you know, while you said that leadership matters a lot and leadership defines the culture of an organization. Absolutely right. But leading a team in the army is not the same as leading a team in civil life. I'll give you a small example. You talked about compliance. Compliance in the army is taken for granted. And in civil, it is not easy to become a leader who will be blindly followed. I say blindly because in army, literally, we have seen that the leader has to be followed. The command, no questions asked about whatever command you give, the soldiers have to follow. But it's not the same in civil. Under the given scenario, I would call this a challenge. One of the major challenges of leadership, I would say, in our schools, in our educational institutions, and you are also heading now almost a partially civil institution. So how do we manage this? How do we balance out this? Because we also cannot work without a team. We need our teachers, we need subordinates, we need people who are partnering with us, who are sharing our visions and missions. So how do we channelize that?
Have you seen Sholay, ma'am?
I have.
How does Gabbar Singh run his gang? That's one. How did Thakur ran the village? I've been for the last 5 years working in civil organizations, and everybody told us when we came out of the army that it's going to be a life-changing experience working with these in civilian setup. It's going to be negative. Nobody's going to listen to you. When I was growing up senior in the army, I was being told this new generation of soldiers were coming. My experience has been that both when I was rising high, interaction with young officers, young soldiers, still is mesmerizing. Look at Neeraj Chopra. He's a young boy, 23 years old. Look, he was a fat, unwieldy kid. See what one Jaiveer as his ustad made him out to be. He's got India national gold medal. Leadership. I'm working for last 5 years in civil state. These young kids, yeah, they are different. They're not same. They are coming. They are now one or two kids, pampered kids. Particularly girls are overly pampered by their fathers. It's extremely challenging to make them work hard. Boys even more pampered by their mothers, single son, couples, brother or sister. So it becomes challenging. And at times, as business leader, it's quite a challenge. But their heart is still in the right place. You can work with them. There always will be few odd guys. I'm still extremely gung ho on India and Indian younger generation. I think the world of them, and I think they will make India proud. Look, till 2021, India did not have a single gold medal. You have one in athletics. So I believe, provided the right opportunities, right infrastructure, right leadership. So if our they can achieve. If they fail, the fault is ours. We the leaders, we the teachers, we the generals, we are at fault. So it is we who have to find that solution. So I do believe that India is on the up path. Yeah, it's a democracy. Politician is always going to look at and focus upon what suits his interests. And I'm afraid, democracy has that challenge, and that challenge is not only in India. You go to any democracy, it faces the same challenge. America, you see what happens. Europe, no different. So these challenges of democracy will exist, but are we willing to go and live in autocracies like in the Middle East or in our northern neighbors? I don't think so. So I believe, we have to, working inside the system, there are enough scope for us to do well. We may not grow as fast as China, but yes, I still am gung-ho about India and India's growth and India's future. I like to read out, there's something in this country. When everywhere around us have collapsed, we are still going.
Absolutely, absolutely. That there is a poem by Rudyard Kipling called "If."
Yeah.
It says that when everything around you is crumbling and collapsing, you have to stand like, if you stand the test of time, you are a man. So definitely, you have, aptly remarked that we need to believe in the youth, and to be honest with you, the youth of today have a lot of promise, sir. It is not that they are less intellectual. In fact, I find that in them a lot of intellect, a lot of ideas spring up in their minds. I think somewhere they lack in discipline, and to blame that only the parents or the older generation and their pampering is the cause behind it, because we are trying to give them very easygoing life, and we subject them to so many luxuries that it's no surprise that they turn out what they are. Also, I'd like to remark here the way we need to learn the way religion is looked at in the army. Sir showed a slide about Sarv Dharm Sthal. It is the place of prayer. where the soldiers collect and pray. Now, I'd like to give a little background about why we have such spaces in every unit or in every regiment. The reason is that the soldiers are coming from different parts of the country, and they have different religious backings. But in the army, once they adorn the uniform, they are supposed to respect every religion, and there is a common place for worship. There are no departments when it comes to religion. And I will not speak any further on this. I would want General Jain to talk about it and why it is necessary, because we are all either principals or teachers, and somewhere in our experiences we tend to have inclinations towards some kind of religion. But according to me, religion is a very private affair. It should not come out of your homes. It should not come in your professional settings. So, sir, without me talking about it, I would like you to throw some light on this issue.
Let me answer this question with a small anecdote, and I can join Pooja ma'am's on that. Both I and Pooja ma'am's husband are from a fraternity of paratroopers, and those paratroopers jump from the aeroplane using a parachute, and our men call it chhatri, umbrella. And when you will go to do jump, there is a term called Chhatri Mata Ki Jai. So our men who come from the stock that they belong to, anything which is unknown or can cause harm or whose benevolence one needs, they equate it with God. It is astha. It is not religion. And that is why this astha is the one which is important. And their astha, they won't let it be put on the ground. They won't let it be anybody touch it with his feet. And before they approach it, they will bow to it. And when they wear it, they will celebrate it by saying Chhatri Mata Ki Jai. So I think religion is been equated, has been transformed by the armed forces into faith and belief, and that has helped us in easily overcoming this disparity which is created. Look, the fight between the political leadership and the theological leadership is very old. After all, the Westphalian War, which was 30 years old, was essentially a war between two sects of Christianity over 30 years, and it actually destroyed Germany's population by 40%. So basically it was the religious or theological leadership wanted that political leadership should cede to it, and the political leadership fought back. So I'm afraid this is going to continue. It's not going to end. It is continued for donkey's years. The fight for leadership. There can be political parties. There can be caste-based parties. There can be theological leaders. This is going to continue. It is the community. It is the society. It is the common human beings as a group. It is the leaders, it is the teachers who as leaders who have to emerge and resolve this by educating the people so that the myths are removed.
Correct, absolutely bang on, because we as the citizens of this country have to look through this act, that this is nothing to do with religion. It has everything to do with, there are some vested interests which cause this kind of, a radicalization or whatever terminology you may call it. Moving on, I sometimes wonder when we talk about a gold medal, or we talk about any flood or any cyclone or any calamity which happens, Everything else fails and army is called at the end of the day. And I wonder that we have so many, uh, institutions like disaster management force and so many other institutions which are specializing in these areas, and we have sports academies, we have special places where whenever there is a calamity they should come and rescue, but everything else fails and crumbles, and it is as if they just raise their hands up in the air and then at the end of everything army comes. So do you think that this approach is correct, or do you think that we can improve this, and how?
First of all, let me put it in perspective. The army, is of the people of India. We come from the people. We are the people, and we are for the people. What Indian the people? No army has ever in this world has succeeded without the support of its people, because we need the people support. Therefore we need to be, we cannot succeed without people support. And in order to have their support, it is incumbent on the armed forces to support its people, particularly during their difficult time. So I think a family is when it can be on each other's, can be for each other in their difficult time. If you can't be there in the difficult time to support the rest of the family member, you're not a family. So I think the armed forces belong to the family. That's first thing that I want to say. The second thing, that we are a very large body of disciplined men with resources of every kind of resource, and with ability to do large tasks in a manner which makes it very easy to accomplish. So that is the second part that I will. But third, what I will say is our nation is functioning very well. Last 15 months, this country has undergone pandemic, and the pandemic has been run by the civil society, by the police, virtually without any large scale support of Indian armed forces, because they were committed on the borders at different places. We have provided support, but not the kind of effort which has been made by the police, by the firefighters, by the bureaucrats, by the school teachers where I'm living. The entire documentation of people who needed help or contact tracing was done in Greater Noida by the teachers. They came to each and every house, putting their own lives at risk. So I do believe, and this is a perfect example of Indian leadership getting its people as a group and as a society to come. I think some leaders in the past have taken the easier course to, as a first step. I can narrate multiple incident in the middle of the night when the river had broken banks, and I was posted in Pathankot, and the deputy commissioner rang me up looking for helicopters to evacuate buffaloes. So I can, but then that was the period and that was an era. I believe the political leadership is evolving, and we are probably on the right path. But all said and done, it should be very clearly understood by everyone hearing. For Indian Army and Indian Armed Forces, it is an honor that we get to help our people whenever they need help.
Okay, thank you so much, sir. And what else can I say but tremendous optimism and positive approach. This is my last question, because I know audiences are getting eager to ask questions too. But this is important. We are going to talk in particular about leadership, and we are also going to talk about leadership in crisis, right? So right now, I am a principal of a very old CBSE school. It's 37-year-old, but it has never faced the kind of time period which it is facing now. And I'm sure many principals understand what I say, because we are currently not functioning like a usual school. We have to deliver everything in absentia. So it's a very strange kind of leadership. Sometimes the teachers are not there, the students are never there, and but yet education and learnings have to go on. So it's a leadership in crisis under the given circumstances, and I'm sure army has faced many such occasions, not one, many. What message do you want to give to the leaders of today?
Let me answer this differently. I very often get to hire or interview people for hiring in the role that I play. And one of my favorite questions to ask the person I'm hiring is to narrate a absolute difficult situation, challenge, or crisis he faced. And a person who hasn't gone through crisis, I refuse to hire. So I believe in a leader who hasn't undergone crisis is an untested leader. A leader who has undergone crisis, I'm very, very certain he will be and has come through it, will be a better leader. It doesn't matter if he did well or he didn't do very well, because most of the people, when you ask them question, what did you do in the crisis? Are you satisfied? No one is satisfied, because they believe in hindsight they could have done this, they could have done that. We all do that in life. But सोना जब तक आग से नहीं निकलता तब तक कोई निखार नहीं आता है उसके अंदर. So gold needs to undergo the process of fire. Iron becomes steel through fire. So crisis is the true test of a person. So I think look at each crisis as an opportunity. And there's a famous saying in the elite special forces that I was, when going gets tough, the tough get going. Thank you.
Thank you so much, sir, for this magnificent, this was very eclectic, and I would say you spoke from your heart. There are one or two questions we'll take up from the chat box. Before that, may I request Colonel Bedi to come up with this question. Colonel Bedi, are you there? Please unmute yourself, or would you want... Can the host please unmute? Colonel Bedi?
Yeah, I think whether he is there now. He raised his hand.
Yeah, he's very much there. He's unmuted now. Yeah.
Should I take it?
Yeah.
You see, basically what has been spoken, they are the fundamentals, and very rightly so. The question becomes more of elaboration on those points which have already been so far said. Now, like for example, natural calamity, the question which was posed, so nicely answered. But at this, what we need to realize is, as far as the army is concerned, it's an institution of the nation. This is where probably we have, there is a aberration occurring among ourselves also, that it does not hold that standing that we are an institution of the nation. We have been devolved with a lot of resources for which we train ourselves very hard. And because of that, we are able to meet any requirement which comes in. Now, you said there are other organizations which have come up to meet the situations of natural calamity. But my personal experience is, though the organizations have come up, but they are probably they have not yet trained themselves well in responding to such situations. Because I have been in operations of such natural calamities or internal security duties. I find that their control rooms are not manned, whereas the control room of the army, once it has been formed, there is no question whether the communications will go off or the man is not there to receive the message. Whereas it has happened as closer to the, say, Vidhan Sabha, there is a control room there, whereas no one is there to man it. Ultimately, the army has to respond first, whereas the other organizations follow. So I just wanted to highlight that particular point. So far, the organizations which have come for the purpose, they are not fully geared up to take on the responsibility. The second point which I want to make, army as such is always ready. I want to put it across. It is always ready to take on any natural calamity which is coming up for the sake of the people. We are for the people, by the people, and of the people, right? And as brought up by the general, that we need the support of the people. So that fact is so true. And therefore, it is ready to respond. There is no question of any compartmentalized line drawn for that purpose. There is nothing like that. So first is the bodies which are there, they need to be trained. The second point is army is always there to take on the responsibility because we are mentally prepared for that. That is the part as far as this thing. As far as the leadership is concerned, you see, I think that basic point is always there, that we have learned that leaders are made, they are not born. So the basic fact which, if you draw the analogy from that, it is very clear that we have to train ourselves. And to that extent, the army's tradition, the custom, the professionalism has always emphasized that training is the most important thing. The more you sweat in peace, the less you bleed in war. That is the motto with which we go. And when I was a youngster in the Paltan, what used to happen, if at times there are so many duties, particularly in peace station, that you may not find more than 3 chaps on the training squad. But I took that challenge. If there are 3 people, I will train them. If nothing else, I'll train those 3 people and make it as a sort of a training event. Similarly, the practicality, I'll bring it out. Once there was a huge exercise, some of you may not have really participated in that. That was brass tacks, for example. It was almost going to war. When the live mines were being given to handle, the Jawans, even though they had carried out the training, their hands were trembling, right? So that is where the whole aspect of training comes in. And once you have trained well, you have trained yourself as an officer well, you will do a better job as a leader. And if anything else on pandemic, etc., we can discuss that for schools, etc. That is the difference.
Okay, thank you, Colonel Bedi, for this reflection. So this was also my point that, the civil setups and civil organizations have to gear up. We are not questioning the readiness of the army. Unquestionably, it's always ready to be there. But what is surprising is that the civil setups and civil departments are often found lacking. Correct. So now coming to, there is one question regarding Nishkam Karma. And, this question has been posed by the audience, in which in our setups, we are all educational leaders, and we find that everybody works for a vested interest. There is not a single, whenever you have to initiate any new measure or any new program, everybody thinks about what is there, what lies in me, what do I benefit from it if I am participating. So how do you inculcate the habit of nishkam karma amongst the youth? Particularly, I'm not even talking about students right now. I'm talking about young teachers who are coming in. The moment they come to us, their first question, and I think all principals will agree, what is my salary? What am I going to get? What are my perks? This is the first question, and I am not blaming them for this. This is the way things are moving towards. So where does Nishkam Karma stand in this context?
I got it. You, good question.
I told you, sir, I am going to ask you very practical questions.
So,
So yeah.
let's start, let's stop looking at everything as individual. When you go, you have a family, that is the smallest unit of a community, a family. So you have a father and you have a mother. And do we ever ask our son, what do I get in return for me looking after you? Or when your old father, do we not look after him? I have a 92 years old father living in my house with me. So I'm looking after him. Look at the community. So this is where I believe I have not found this to be a challenge in America, in the armed forces. Look at which society can be more materialistic than United States of America. And look at the number of Americans who sacrificed themselves in Second World War. There was a study done recently by US Marines which said the amount of time a Marine had when he was confronted with a suicide truck, it was in microseconds. So it is the training of that person in peacetime, as Colonel Bedi was saying, which ingrains that Nishkam karma in his mind. So the society and the teachers need to adopt that. Nishkam karma is not my philosophy. Nishkam karma is the philosophy of Gita, of Mahabharata. How it is 1200 years old. It is the world. Nishkam karma has been given to Indian as a heritage from them. How do you imbibe them? I believe the loyalty, the motivation provided by money will only last for a while, but a motivation ingrained through training into the character of a society shall last forever. Look at what Japanese have achieved. It is a society. What is so bad about India that we cannot adopt that? So I do believe it is possible to do that. We have to focus upon that. And it is from the same civil society that the children come and they go like Vikram Batra saying, Ye dil mange more, and you are making a movie called Shehenshah or Sher Shah, whatever the name is, with stars and a very pretty actress, Kiara Advani. So I do believe what greater motivation can be there for Nishkam karma for a soldier? It still is sending a shiver down my spine and I'm having goosebumps. My father joined Indian Air Force on 10th of January 1948. My son is still wearing a uniform. Why do we do that? So I believe it's possible to do it. I just don't give it up. Keep doing it. There'll be guys who will not do it. There'll be guys who will do it.
So it's 5:50. We can go on and on, believe you me. My questions will not end. Audiences will also keep asking, but we've got to conclude. And I'll request Mr. Binumon to share the feedback form. Sir, please.
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
I think we can take one last question. There is Devaprada Bishwas. He is waiting for long.
Please,
Let him ask after that.
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, you can ask Bishwas.
Jai Hind, Major Saab, Jai Hind, Colonel Saab, and Jai Hind, all esteemed educators. I am talking from Uttarkashi, Uttarakhand. So I just would like to add one thing. Yeah, there is no question, just add. that Bhagavad Gita says that Shoryam Tejam Dhriti Daksham Yuddhe Chapi Apalayanam Danam Ishvara Bhavasya Chhatra Karma Svabhajam. That means the intrinsic qualities of a warrior, a fighter, a Yodha is Shoryam, Shurvirata, valor, Tejam, vigor, Dhriti, determination, Draksham means skill, Kushalata, Yuddhe Apalayanam. That means he will not show his back in the struggle of his life. Samsara Yuddha mein he will not show his back. And Danam means he is always ready, like Dadhichi, to sacrifice his life. And Ishvara Bhavasya means he is having leadership, he is having the administrative quality, he will not be fearful. And because of that, in Indian culture, as because in all our cultural texts, this sacrifice is mentioned everywhere. That's why ultimately in any situation, we always trust Indian Army. And we say that Shoryam Daksham Yudhe. In our life, we always show valor and vigor. Bir Bhogya Vasundhara. And regarding leadership, we have been taught that Nayati iti neta, Niyatat iti neta. So whoever leads us, takes us from one platform to another platform, and that platform must be higher always. That is the role of leadership. That is the role of Neta. As Einstein, Heisenberg always used to quote that Asatoma Sadgamaya, Tamasoma Yotirgamaya, Mriturma Amritagamaya. In any situation, this duty is executed by leaders. Einstein used to quote this mantra of Upanishad. Thank you so much, Major Saab and Colonel Saab and all esteemed leaders. Jai Hind.
Thank you so much for these lovely words. We have to conclude today's session now, and let us try to kind of recapitulate what we've learned today. And there's a lot that we can take home from today's session, thanks to General Jain. General Jain talked about the power which a nation has, the hard power and the soft power. He spoke about it. He in fact enlisted the different types of powers that are there. And he also touched upon the difference between democracy and autocracy, and what is smart power. We also learned about, ideology of the armed forces, what they believe in. And, he also touched upon the tenets of ahimsa, and also about nishkam karma, and how every human being, in order to be successful, has to have certain traits in him. As a leader, you have to be a good listener. As a leader, you have to have the competence and the skill in your area, without which you will fail. Your weaknesses will be exposed at one point of time or the other. But at the same time, if you are competent, does not mean that you do not possess humility, that you are not a good listener. All these are also mark of a good leader. And also that you have to have sublime ego. And we can really talk a lot about this, that you should have ego, but what kind of ego you should have, that is necessary. And it should not be hubris. Like there are certain necessities of a good leader, of a successful leader, and some of which are like you should have certain ethics, integrity, you should be honest, and you should have a good moral character, because you are a role model to numerous people. We also saw the way religion is treated in the army, and I think that is something which is very much important for us, all of us, to understand and I think adopt in our work life. Apart from giving numerous examples of different countries and how they tackle, their population, we learned that somewhat we have a very promising youth population, and we have to trust in their caliber, and we have to celebrate their caliber. So these were some valuable lessons and discussions which took place today. And I'm so grateful to you, General Jain, for this lovely discussion. And now I'll hand over the dais to Mr.
Binu, sir, you can hand on.
Yeah, Mr. Binumon for taking it further from
Thank you, Pooja ma'am, and thank you, Major Sir. The wonderful session is almost over. And this is the time to fill up the feedback form. It is already shared in our chat box. Kindly fill up with correct particulars so that we can give you certificates without error. That is very important. And one more important aspect is, you know that you might have gone through our teaser video. In it, we have displayed the resource persons, those who are associated with Panchatantra Planet for the last 2-3 months. It's a wonderful journey. And today is our 18th webinar. So many eminent personalities, including CBSE officials, educational experts from across the country, addressed the audience and enlightened us. So we are coming up with a lot of programs with eminent educationists of our country and abroad. So I am getting a lot of inquiries that how to become a part of Panchatantra Planet. So now this is the time we also started thinking about that. So many educationists are genuinely interested to be a part of Panchatantra Planet to contribute something to the society. So we also would like to associate with a lot of eminent educationists in our country, and we are willing for that. So those who are genuinely interested to be a part of Panchatantra Planet in one way or another way. So we have different categories of associations are there. We can just mail to us. Panchatantra Planet's official mail ID will be put in the chat box. Kindly send a mail so that we will give you proper response immediately. You'll get a response from our side. That's an information from my end on behalf of Panchatantra Planet. And here we are coming up 2 more programs in the month of August. We have one program on 14th of this month. That is regarding early childhood care and education, recent developments in early childhood care and education, ECCE. So after the introduction of national education policy is actually transforming the landscape of educational scenario. A decluttering is required. So we have to think about whether we need to continue with the regimented practices that we are following right now. So school education, especially in the foundational stage, needed to be changed. So many discussions are going on, but Panchatantra Planet is coming with a unique point of discussion. We have a very good panelist on the particular day, that is 14th of this month, 4:30. Ms. Jimmy Epen and Mrs. Sureka Day and Mr. Alminar Sainuddin. These are the panelists, those who are coming up on that day. Then we have another program also in the same month of August that is related to, that's a very special program that is for the children actually. It is based on a book that is written by Sri Chandrachud Ghosh. It is Conundrum. That book is very famous. We know that it's a very controversial book. It is depicting, this book is, because actually its theme is based on the mysterious disappearance of Subhash Chandra Bose. So the author itself is coming to the platform, and the author is going to interact with the children on that particular day. From across the country, so many children are joining in that particular program, and we have selected few children, those who are genuinely interested and their principals supported. So that children are straight away going to interact with the author of the book. At the same time, he is also going to deliver a half-an-hour talk regarding his book. So it is going to unravel so many mysterious aspects surrounding India's freedom struggle. And it is, we can learn something, we can explore something from the freedom struggle also. So anyhow, these are the programs, coming up programs. So we'll give you all the details further in different groups. We'll send all these posters in different platforms like Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and in WhatsApp groups. And we are sending mails to principals, Sahodaya heads. So kindly go through the mail and please respond and register yourself. Thank you all. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Binumon sir. And may I now invite Mrs. Shanti Priya, Principal Vista School, Hyderabad, to present the vote of thanks.
Thank you, ma'am. Good evening, everyone. Let me start with a quote which goes very right for Major General Bhupen Jain, sir. John Adams said, if your actions inspire others to dream more, learn more, do more, and become more, you are a true leader. Very rightly said, sir. And after listening to you, I felt this is an apt quote which goes in for you, sir. You're an exceptional, legendary, true leader. I'm sure everyone who has attended this session would voice out the same thoughts as I am doing. In fact, Pooja ma'am picked away quite a lot of takeaways which I wanted to share. So cutting them short, I would want to get it in a nutshell. So you started, as she said, from the power, then you came into the environment, then to the religion, spoke about spiritualism, spoke about character, value, ethics getting integrated. You spoke about a true leader can be a leader only when his team is happy. And for his team to be happy, we need to control our egos. We need to practice what humility. We should be asking more practical probing questions. Beyond all this, we need to walk our talk as a leader, which is very, very important. And you also said that decision making is a very important key element, which most of us are not very sure or confident in taking. As a leader, you should take up the challenges. As a leader, your success is not yours. It is the team's success, but the failure is yours. And the responsibility is more towards us as a leader than towards the team. Very well said, sir. I think it was a very inspirational leadership series too, I would say, for everyone. And again, as Radhakrishna sir said, Pooja ma'am is the right person to moderate the event. Very well said, sir. I do agree with you. The way she has conducted the event, coordinated, stringed everything together, there can be no one who can substitute her for this particular session. Thank you so much, ma'am, for making this event or the session a wonderful one. Thank you once again. A big thanks to the entire board of directors, organizers of Panchatantra Planet. Without them, we wouldn't have gathered over here to take along with us these experiences, whatever we are gathering together. A very special thanks to the people who are the spine of the event, Mr. Robinson and Mr. Abhilash, the technical persons for managing the Zoom, designing all the promotional material. A big heartfelt thanks to all the leaders, the principals, the teachers who have joined us together with the same mission that we want to become better leaders, better persons to inspire and to make a better society. Thank you everyone for taking out your valuable time and joining us together. Before I wind up, a humble request, we are sharing the feedback form. Please do fill it up. As sir said, please fill in your correct name so that the certificate is given with the same name. Thank you so much. We will be looking forward to meet all of you again for the next session. Have a great evening to one and all.
Yeah, from Panchatantra Planet, we thank each and everyone. Hubeshi, hats off to you for making the session a wonderful one and joining us, even though you had a very busy schedule, accepting our invitation and coming over here. Thank you.
May I take this opportunity to thank the teachers for inviting me, because teachers hold a special place for all of us. And my namaskaram to each teacher.
And same way, Pooja ma'am, you have agreed upon this because this was one of my wish. There should be a person from defense background to interview, sir, because you people know well how the things move. and you have accepted, and you have come, and you have done wonderfully well, much beyond my expectation. That's what I wanted to say. So thank you so much, Pooja. We will be associating with you in future too. Then to my close friend, I can say a colleague, close friend, and all, Shanti Priya ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, for accepting to say the vote of thanks. Thank you so much. Thank you very much.
It was my pleasure, sir. It was a lot of takeaway for me too. Thank you so much.
And everyone who joined with us today for this wonderful session, I thank each and everyone and expect you to join time and again. And also we know that there are many, even senior people who join us in each and every session. You can see here Srinivasan Chandramohan sir, right from the beginning. Why I pinned him over here is all the 18 sessions. I think I didn't attend all the 18 sessions, but all the last 18 sessions were attended by him. And not only that, he makes a note and sometimes he used to send me. So these are the summaries of today's session. So I want to go in front of you, sir, Srinivasan sir, Chandramohan sir. Thank you so much for attending all our sessions very seriously and very. Thank you so much. So thank you all. Bye-bye. See you next time. Bye-bye.